13. The refrigerator full of leftovers in mismatched containers. Opening the refrigerator revealed a Tetris-like arrangement of leftovers. Butter containers filled with collard greens, Cool Whip tubs hiding potato salad, margarine containers concealing mac and cheese. Nothing matched, but everything had its place. Each container told a story of a meal shared, carefully preserved for tomorrow's lunch or late-night snack. This system required mental cataloging. Family members had to remember what each container actually held. Appearances were deceiving. The butter tub might contain anything but butter. This was not disorganization, it was efficient use of resources. Why buy storage containers when repurposed ones worked perfectly? The mismatched leftover collection taught respect for food. Wasting was not an option when money was tight and groceries had to stretch. Every meal was too valuable to discard. The refrigerator became a testament to culinary planning, to making enough to feed family now and later. It showed children that good stewardship meant preserving resources, thinking ahead, and honoring the labor that went into every meal. Those mismatched containers held more than food. They held foresight, care, and the unwillingness to let anything precious go to waste. The extension cord running through multiple rooms. When outlets were scarce or inconveniently placed, the solution was simple: extension cords. A thick orange cord might run from the living room, under the carpet edge, through the hallway, powering a lamp in the bedroom. These cords became semi-permanent fixtures, mapped in everyone's memory to avoid tripping. The extension cord system required household cooperation. Everyone had to remember the cord's path, especially when vacuuming or moving furniture. It was infrastructure created through necessity, a DIY electrical grid that made the home functional without expensive rewiring. This adaptation taught problem-solving and spatial awareness. It showed children that obstacles could be overcome through creative thinking. The extension cord was not a sign of a deficient home. It was evidence of residents who refused to let architectural limitations dictate their comfort. Why hire an electrician for hundreds of dollars when a $15 cord solved the problem? The extension cord was practical genius, a visible reminder that solutions do not always require professional intervention. Sometimes the best fix is the one you create yourself. 15. Pennies in aluminum foil for Christmas ornaments. When store-bought ornaments were beyond the budget, families created their own. Pennies wrapped carefully in aluminum foil became shimmering decorations. The foil caught the light from the tree, creating sparkle that rivaled expensive glass bulbs. Popcorn and cranberry garlands, handmade paper chains, and foil-wrapped pennies transformed modest trees into magical displays. Children participated in making these ornaments, learning that celebration did not require expensive purchases. The act of creating decorations became as meaningful as the holiday itself. Each wrapped penny represented resourcefulness. Each paper chain link a moment of family togetherness. These homemade ornaments taught that value was not monetary. The tree decorated with handmade items carried more love than one adorned with store-bought perfection. The foil-wrapped penny was humble, but it gleamed with pride. It said, "We celebrate, we create beauty, we are this moment with what we have." Years later, adults remembered making those ornaments with more fondness than any expensive toy received. The penny ornament was a lesson in what truly matters. Not what you spend, but what you create together. The ice cube tray that never made ice. In every freezer, one ice cube tray had transcended its original purpose. It no longer made ice for drinks. Instead, it held frozen juice cubes for babies, leftover coffee for ice drinks later, or small portions of stock for cooking. The tray became a multi-use organizational tool, its compartments perfect for portioning and preserving. This repurposing showed practical creativity. Rather than purchasing specialized containers for every need, families adapted what they had. The ice tray's grid design made it ideal for creating single-serving portions, and its presence in the freezer was guaranteed. The ice tray taught versatility and forward thinking. It showed that objects could evolve beyond their intended use, that creativity expanded resources. The family that froze coffee in ice cube trays was not eccentric, they were efficient, waste-conscious, and always thinking ahead. The repurposed ice tray was a small example of a larger principle. Work smarter, not harder, and see potential in everything. 17. Keys hanging on a string by the door. Before key hooks and decorative organizers, a simple string nailed by the front door held the family's keys. It was functional, visible, and ensured that keys were never lost. Everyone knew the system. Come home, hang the keys on the string. Going out, keys are on the string. This simple solution prevented the chaos of misplaced keys and the expense of calling locksmiths. The string represented order in a busy household, a shared system that required everyone's participation. Children learned responsibility by being entrusted to hang keys properly. The string by the door taught that organization did not require expensive products or systems. It taught that simplicity often worked best. The visible keys also served a security function. Family members could tell at a glance who was home and who was out. This was community living within the household, where everyone's movements were known and tracked for safety. The key string was not primitive, it was elegant in its simplicity, effective in its design, and democratic in its accessibility. In every home, a broom stood behind a door, usually the kitchen or a back door. It was not hidden in a closet, but kept readily accessible because it was used constantly. Sweeping was a daily ritual, a practice of maintaining order and cleanliness, even when deep cleaning might be postponed. The broom's position taught that cleanliness was a priority, a non-negotiable standard regardless of circumstances. A swept floor cost nothing, but required consistency. The broom behind the door was always ready, and children learned early to grab it and sweep without being asked. This placement represented a philosophy. Small efforts, done consistently, maintain dignity. The broom was not hidden because there was no shame in work, no embarrassment in the tools of maintenance. It stood visible, a reminder that caring for one's space was honorable work. The broom behind the door taught children that cleanliness was not about wealth, it was about self-respect. You controlled what you could control, and a swept floor was something you could always control. Newspapers as tablecloth and cleaning rag. Newspapers served multiple lives before being discarded. First, they were read, information absorbed. Then they became tablecloths for messy projects, fish frying, arts and crafts, hair cutting. Finally, they became window cleaning rags, their ink-printed surface perfect for creating streak-free glass. This life cycle of newspaper use demonstrated zero-waste thinking. Every item had multiple purposes, and nothing was discarded until it had given its all. The newspaper's many lives taught resourcefulness and environmental consciousness. It taught that objects could serve sequentially, that value extended beyond primary use. The family that saved newspapers was not cluttered, they were strategic, seeing potential where others saw trash. This practice showed children that waste was a choice, not a necessity, and that intelligence meant extracting maximum value from everything that entered the home. 20. The hot comb heating on the stove. Sunday mornings and special occasions meant the ritual of hair straightening. The metal hot comb, iron teeth attached to a wooden handle, heated directly on the stove's gas flame or electric coil. Mothers and aunties tested its temperature with tissue or on the back of their hands, judging by instinct and experience when it reached the perfect heat. This was not just hairstyling, it was transformation ritual. Girls sat still, sometimes for hours, as skilled hands sectioned hair, applied grease, and pulled the hot comb through carefully. The smell of royal crown hairdressing mixed with the metallic heat became the scent of beauty, of preparation for the world outside. The hot comb taught trust and intimacy. It required absolute stillness. One wrong move could mean a burned ear or scalp. The person wielding the comb carried responsibility for both beauty and safety. Conversations flowed during these sessions. Advice was given, family bonds strengthened. The hot comb was more than a tool. It was a vehicle for intergenerational connection, for passing down beauty techniques and life wisdom simultaneously. The kitchen became a salon, and the stove became the foundation of transformation. 21. The clock that's 15 minutes fast. Every home had at least one clock, deliberately set ahead, usually 15 minutes, sometimes 20. This was not an accident or broken timepiece. It was strategy. The fast clock served as a buffer against lateness, a psychological trick to ensure family members left the house on time. Everyone knew the clock was fast, but it still worked. The urgency it created was real. We're gonna be late. Carried weight, even when everyone understood the built-in cushion existed. The fast clock represented understanding of human nature and the desire to meet the world's schedules despite chaotic mornings. This practice taught time management and the importance of punctuality. Even more, it showed that systems could be created to support success. The fast clock was not about deception. It was about accountability. It acknowledged the challenge of getting everyone ready and out the door while creating a structure to help achieve it. The family with the fast clock was not delusional. They were strategic, building in their own safety nets against the consequences of lateness in a world that would not be forgiving. Because I said so. When children asked why they had to do something or why something was forbidden, the response was often simply, "Because I said so." This was not laziness in parenting, it was efficiency and authority. In households where parents worked multiple jobs and time was precious, lengthy explanations were luxuries. But beneath the brevity was deep meaning. Because I said so carried the weight of generations, the accumulated wisdom of elders who had survived Jim Crow, discrimination, and economic hardship. It said, "I do not have time to debate, but trust that I am protecting you." This phrase taught respect for authority and the understanding that not every rule needed justification. It taught children that questioning was not always appropriate, that some knowledge came with age and experience. As adults, many came to appreciate that "because I said so" was often protecting them from dangers they could not understand yet. It was love expressed through boundaries, wisdom delivered through brevity. The phrase was not dismissive. It was trust that children would understand later what they could not grasp now. 23. Sleeping under quilts made from old clothes. Grandmothers and great-grandmothers created quilts from scraps of outgrown clothing, worn-out dresses, old shirts, fabric too precious to discard. Every patch told a story. This square was from a church dress, that one from a baby's blanket, another from a father's work shirt. The quilts were warm, heavy, and filled with memory. Sleeping under these quilts meant being wrapped in family history. Children could point to squares and remember the garments they came from, connecting pieces of fabric to specific moments in time. The quilts were not just functional, they were genealogy you could touch. Making these quilts required skill, patience, and vision. The quilter saw beauty in remnants, saw how disparate pieces could become unified wholes. The quilt taught that nothing was ever truly finished, that endings could become beginnings. It showed children that poverty did not mean deprivation if you had creativity and skill. The patchwork quilt was not a sign of inability to buy new. It was evidence of artistry, memory preservation, and the refusal to let anything valuable be wasted. Under those quilts, children slept covered by love made visible. Playing in the street until the street lights came on. Summer evenings meant the street became a playground. Kids played tag, hide and seek, double dutch, and pick up basketball until the universal signal, street lights coming on. That was the deadline, non-negotiable. When those lights flickered to life, it was time to go home. Parents did not need to come outside calling. The street light was the law, respected by all children because the consequences of violating it were swift and certain. This system showed trust. Parents trusted the community to watch their children, trusted kids to follow the rule, trusted the street lights to do their job. The streetlight rule taught community cohesion and shared responsibility. Every adult on the block was an extension of parental authority, empowered to correct any child. Every child knew they were being watched, protected, and held accountable. The street was a classroom for social skills, conflict resolution, and physical activity. The streetlight system was simple but profound. It gave children freedom within structure, independence within safety. When those lights came on, childhood paused and everyone went home, tired, happy, and ready to do it again tomorrow. 25. The good dishes that only came out twice a year. High in the kitchen cabinet, often behind glass doors, sat the good dishes. They emerged only for Thanksgiving and Christmas, sometimes Easter if the family gathered. The rest of the year, they waited, perfect, untouched, a symbol of aspiration and special moments. These dishes were often gifts, wedding presents, or carefully saved for purchases. They represented investment in the idea that some occasions deserved ceremony, deserved elevation above the everyday. Children learned not to touch them, understanding instinctively that these plates carried weight beyond their physical form. The good dishes taught delayed gratification and the importance of marking significant moments. They showed that not everything should be commonplace, that some things gained value through rarity. When those dishes came out, the meal became an event. The china told everyone present, "This matters. You matter. This gathering is important." The good dishes were not snobbery. They were reverence for family, for tradition, for the rare moments when everyone came together. They taught children to recognize sacred from ordinary, to understand that creating meaning sometimes required making distinctions. The good dishes waited patiently all year for their moment, and when that moment came, they transformed the table into something holy. These 25 traditions were not about poverty or lack. They were about intelligence, creativity, community, and the unshakable dignity of Black families who built beautiful lives within challenging circumstances. Every covered telephone, every spit-shine shoe, every plastic-wrapped couch told the same story. We are here, we matter, we choose grace. These practices taught children that wealth was not a prerequisite for pride, that limitations could be launching pads for creativity, and that love, resourceful, intentional, and unwavering, could create magic from the most ordinary materials. The lessons of the 70s and 80s remain timeless. Work with what you have, honor your space, protect what matters, waste nothing, trust your community, and never, ever let circumstance diminish your light.